Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny, and this is going to be my January reading wrap-up. I read 6 books in January, so not too shabby. I'm staying on track with my goal of reading 1 book a week. I had a very poor 2023 in terms of reading. I read 25 books. I don't want to talk about it.
Sure, Jan.
It seems like the trend is that I'm doing a bit better this year, so let's see if I can keep it up. Yeah, let's just get right into the books. So I'm going to start with the ones that I do have physical copies. And I'm going to start with 2 of my favorites. So this is The Woman in the Dunes by Kōbō Abe. He is a Japanese writer. This book follows an amateur entomologist named Nikki Junpei. He takes some time off work to go to a seaside town, hoping to find a beetle, a new discovery of a beetle that he can put his name on as an amateur beetle or insect enthusiast. So when he goes to this town, night falls and he needs accommodations, and he comes across these men who are like, "Oh yeah, we'll hook you up with a place to stay," and they set him up to room with a woman who lives inside of a sand dune. It's complicated. And here's an educational diagram. Whoops. Oops. This town is like in a sand dune, kind of, or on a sand dune. Again, hard to explain. But the idea is that he is trapped there, basically. They've set him up to live with this woman to help her control the flow of sand into her home. So he can't escape, he can't get out, because height. This diagram does not adequately show the depth of the sand dune, but yeah. I gave this book 5 stars. I mean, I don't really like the Goodreads rating system anyway, but in terms of that rating system, I would give it 5 stars. It's beautifully written, and I think it's such a masterclass in how to, for me as a writer, for how to write the kind of suspense that is just luscious with prose, but give the reader that sense of this encroaching doom. This novel left me feeling very claustrophobic to the point where I had to put it down, just walk away and take 20 minutes and take a break. And then it took me a few days to finish. And it's not a very long book. It's about 239 pages. So it's not a very long book. I was just very impressed at how a writer can make language like that. It's brilliantly translated. So the translator is E. Dale Saunders, and he did a phenomenal job at translating what I'm sure was probably a tough work to translate. Another thing that I really love about this book is that sense of existential dread of embracing the inevitable. I have a tattoo, it's faded, but it says Amor Fati, love your fate. And I think this book kind of embodies that. And I hope I'm not giving away the ending, but I won't say any more about that. But if you like that kind of existential dread in your books, pick this one up. It's so good. The next book, I read this for book club. This is How to Lose the Time. This is How You Lose the Time War by Amal, El-Mohtar, and Max Gladstone. It follows 2 opposing spy, assassin, agents, people whose job is to travel throughout time and tweak certain events so that their organizations or their agencies, the goals that they have for the world, come about. The sci-fi aspect of this book is very sci-fi light, which I really loved because I'm not crazy about sci-fi. So if you like literary fiction and you want just like a little bit of sci-fi thrown in, this is a good one to pick up. These 2 spies keep running into each other. I keep calling them spies because I don't really know what else to call them. I would kind of describe this book as like a Romeo and Juliet meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith meets Sapphic epistolary Virginia Woolf and Vita Sackville West. Like I don't really know how to describe it other than give you random connections. But so these 2 spies are running through the threads of time, and killing people, doing terrible things. They are the top agents of their respective agencies. And as they start to come across each other, they obviously are trying to thwart the work of the other. These two agencies are opposing teams. And they start to leave letters for each other. These aren't run of the mill, like paper and pen letters. They're letters that take very strange forms, like letters inside of seeds that one has to eat. It's complicated, and the idea is you just go with it. This novel definitely demands that you just go with it. There's no world building to speak of, and I think it really works for a book this short because it's so fast paced, and you just kind of throw yourself into the story and forget that you don't know who these agencies are, forget that you don't know what their objectives are with the worlds that they're trying to accomplish. Just follow the story and follow the two characters as they go along in their work, and these letters start to take on a more romantic quality. And it's beautiful. I made the joke to my partner that one of these writers, at least one of these writers, went to creative writing, and lo and behold, I read the back or the author details, and I think one of them teaches creative writing at Carleton University, which is in Ottawa. So yay me. And you can really tell when someone has gone through a creative writing program or workshops where you learn how to use these kind of literary devices in an effective way, in a way that's not just obnoxious and purple and just cringe. It's done beautifully. There are references to Percy Bysshe Shelley's Ozymandias poem, um, and Emily Dickinson and other random poetic and artistic references that you might geek out about. So definitely pick this one up. It's a lot of fun. It's also just fun. Like it's just so much fun, and I enjoyed reading it. And I hope to read it again someday when I have time. We're going lower into the list where things start to get a bit sad. This is Death Valley by Melissa Broder. Melissa Broder is one of those, I have all of her books. She's one of those auto buy, auto read, auto love authors for me. She's really spunky. You may know her from the Twitter account, formerly Twitter, now X, Tyrant. So sad today. She's just funny, and she just gets that kind of millennial ennui and malaise and just mental health and addictions and things like that. I love her style. She has a very distinct style that's really like spunky and a little too Y2K at sometimes, but it works for me, I guess. This one, sadly, I did not love it. I rated it 2 stars. Uh, this book has a lot going for it. It has a desert theme, which I love deserts. I've never been to a desert, and I also hate heat, but I like to think about the desert. So basically, it's about a woman. She's writing a novel about a woman who goes to a desert. So she goes to a desert. And back home, she's dealing with an ailing father. They're not sure if he's going to pull through. And her husband has some sort of chronic illness. So she definitely fulfills a caretaker role in her relationship much more than I guess she wants to, and kind of misses the times when things were a lot easier. And on a hike, she stumbles upon a giant cactus in the middle of nowhere. And when she goes inside, it takes on this really surreal quality where she meets previous versions of the people in her life. Like she'll meet her dad when he was a kid or whatever. And when she goes back to her motel, she talks to the staff about this cactus, and they're like, that is not a thing. We don't know what you're talking about. So, there's that sense of like it's a cactus that's there for her and her purpose. And I'm not sure that that vehicle really worked for this book. I couldn't get through a page without these annoying parenthetical remarks. There are like 2 to 5 on every 2 pages. I'm just gonna open up to a random page. See? Look. See those? What's that? 2 or 3? 2? That's 3. That's 3. And they start to get really distracting because it feels like she's not just saying what she wants to say. So the writing style in this one was definitely a miss for me, which was sad because I was really looking forward to this one. Great idea, just execution wasn't there for me, I guess. The last physical copy I have is Verity by Colleen Hoover. I read this because I'm new to this whole book talk thing. I think it's really intriguing that there are, people who are literary fiction girlies, people who are coho girlies, and the coho girlies and the literary fiction girlies, if you're on book talk, they don't always see eye to eye, and it's really funny. So I picked up Verity, and I regret paying money for this. Full price. Paid full price. Full price.
In this economy?
I wanted to read it because I wanted to know, why the literary fiction girlies hate Coho so much and like trash her novels. Are her novels trash? Now I've only read the one, and obviously the one I read a long time ago that I can't remember, so it clearly wasn't memorable. Y'all, I'm throwing so much shade. I'm sorry. I'm not. This is so poorly written. It's so poorly written. I almost DNF'd this, but I had to see it through. Basically, it is about a woman who's another writer, and her books aren't popular. No one really cares about her stuff. And she gets invited to ghostwrite a very popular series, who I guess is like a stand in for Colleen Hoover, like a proxy, because she's very successful and whatever. But that other writer, Verity, is has a debilitating illness. No one's even sure if she can walk or talk or anything. So the character Loren is invited to for a very generous amount of money and almost turns it down like a idiot.
In this economy?
Goes to the family home somewhere in New England, and weird shit starts to happen. Is Verity walking and talking? Is she bedridden? We don't actually know. And it kind of just plays around with that suspense, and it's ridiculous because you see what's coming. Like, I can't even spoil this if I wanted to. You could probably read 30 pages and you know where it's going to go. Um, like, the smut isn't smutting, the writing isn't giving, the characters, they're boring, they're flat, they're one dimensional. Like, it just. And I don't mean to say that because I've read this, I've read by extension all of Colleen Hoover. I clearly haven't, but if this is one of the fan favorites, I feel like I'm confident to say that I don't really need to read any other ones. And I love a good smut. Okay, one of my favorite books.
A few minutes later.
Yeah, Literacy and Longing in LA by Jennifer Kaufman and Karen Mack. When did this come out? It's pretty old. Some of the references are probably dated. Yeah, 2006. It's pretty old, but it gives that literary book nerd writer thing with actual nice writing. So the next one I'll talk about is Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. She is an Indigenous writer. This book was so good. Y'all, I don't know why I look so mad. It's just my face. It will definitely stick with me. I still think about it. It's about a 20-something-year-old, but she's moved away from Alberta. She's moved away from her family. So she's living in Vancouver, and she starts to have these dreams about her dead sister Sabrina. When she wakes up, she starts to bring things out of the dream world. So when she wakes up the first time, where the story starts, she has a severed crow's head because in the dream she had decapitated a crow. And when she blinks, it disappears. But she swears she saw it and felt the weight of it in her hand. And she starts to have these more frequent awkward dreams. Crows are following her around, and she decides that it's time to go home. Which this it's definitely a story about homecoming and that complication of when you've left home for an emotionally tough reason that you left home. She's going home to get answers about these dreams, get answers about her sister's death. And there's definitely a mystery surrounding that. So with her sister Tracy and their cousin Cassidy, they kind of gather the troops together to figure this out. The thing that I love about the novel is that it affirms the indigenous traditions and cultures and customs in a way that does not try to justify those customs in the face of Western traditions. It completely circumnavigates that by saying, no, these customs are very real to us, and this way of life and these traditions and these mythologies are real to us. The fact that Mackenzie is having these dreams and she's able to bring things out of the dream world, no one questions it, right? Because this is very, very real and very serious. So I really loved that part. I remember reading an essay last year for a course that I took called Last Things, Life and Death in the Anthropocene. And we had a chapter on our Indigenous apocalypses and the idea that for many Indigenous people, especially in Canada, the apocalypse already happened. The essay that I read, the writer is Vanessa Watts. She starts off with saying, let's start off with the story of Sky Woman, and we're not going to talk about it as mythology. We're going to talk about it as if it were real, as if this were as real as Jesus Christ is to me. And I truly just love and respected that viewpoint. Jessica Johns really knows how to weave in those complicated mother-daughter relationships, the relationships between sisters, the difference between like femininity and masculinity in these communities where it's all the women who are doing this heavy emotional lifting and going around and trying to figure out this mystery and what's going on and who else is affected by this. And they're bringing the community baked goods and trying to get their stories. And this novel really leans into that importance of storytelling and sharing information, sharing traditional knowledge so that you can deal with the world and the horrors of the world. So I absolutely love that book. I cannot stop talking about it. I had so much fun reading it, and it just really taught me a lot. So definitely one to pick up. I gave it 4 stars, but I think I'm in rethinking when you rethink your ratings. I'm like, actually, it's probably like a 5 star. Like, let's be real. It was just so good. Lastly, I read Land of Milk and Honey by C. Pam Zhang. Don't know if I'm mispronouncing the name. This book was a 3 star. Start off with a rating. I read it as part of my dissertation research. My research interests are millennial novels that focus on the apocalypse. So books like Lingma's Severance, actually that book is in my study, and this is another one I read for that research. I'm in the process of writing my comprehensive exams, which really sucks. I'm such a procrastinator, so it's a great time to start a YouTube channel, but I have a lot of reading to shrink into a very short month-long window. So I kind of just flew through that one, and I unfortunately I read it as an English PhD looking for what I'm looking for, and not as just a reader enjoying the book. And I think it would have been different if I were working out of a different mindset. Because I said before, like it really does affect your ability to just read for pleasure. I don't know if this is everybody, but if you went to PhD school, or if you went to, if you went to if you've ever done any English major or whatever, English studies, literature studies, let me know if you have that problem. It's a shitty problem to have, and I'm trying to work on it. But anyway, the novel follows a chef, an Asian American chef. She is invited or hired to work on this Italian mountain where a billionaire Elon Musk type and his visionary daughter have created this like colony on the Italian mountains where they've got livestock, they've got seeds, different kinds of vegetation, biodiversity, and her job is to be a chef at like the last like Michelin level restaurant, I guess, in the world. Because at this time, smog has completely enveloped the world. Food is scarce, so it's really apocalyptic. Her hope, after putzing around Paris for a while, is that she'll be able to go back home to the United States, but there's a whole like people sort of band. So there's that anti-Asian racism bent to it as well. But her employer is eccentric, he's odd, he's kind of brutal, he's very militant, and it's unsettling. She starts to create recipes with the rarest ingredients. Like at this point, you can't get foie gras or you can't get like peanut butter. So she's using some of the at the time of the novel, some of the rarest ingredients, the rarest meat, to make basically investors spend money on this billionaire's vision, which is to colonize. It might be Mars. That part is not very clear, and I'll have to reread that ending just to make sure I wasn't sleeping, because I probably was. But they're eventually going to take this colony and get out, go somewhere else. Her job is to cook outstanding meals for the guests, but the real reason why she was chosen for this job is because of her striking resemblance to the billionaire's long lost wife, who was, I believe she was Korean. And so this chef is now just standing in for this no one knows where she went woman to kind of fulfill that picture of the perfect family, the perfectly obedient Asian wife, the brilliant daughter, and the crazy visionary billionaire. In terms of my research, it has a lot going for it. You know, it has the idea of going off planet. It has the obnoxious elite that has all the access and all the resources when everything is scarce. It's beautifully written. You can tell that the writer was playing with language and taste. So there are these, it's kind of a synesthetic experience where she uses language in a way that, like, as you read the words, if you were to read it out loud, it would just kind of glide over the tongue and kind of just give you that visceral sensation. So that was another kind of masterclass in writing for me, along with Woman in the Dunes, of how to write like that. Like it's just really incredible. And then also what happens in the book is that the chef has a relationship with the daughter, Ida. She was a biochemist, but she is definitely having a hard time with family dynamics. You know, her father is pretty much using her and her mind to advance his ambitions. So, and her mother is who knows where. So it seems like she's the kind of person who raised herself and is also very just unapologetically elitist, that made me cringe and realize that there are people like that who think that they know what's best for everyone in the world, and what's best is to like leave everybody behind and take this little colony and start over. It's giving Don't Look Up. So I gave that one 3 stars. It was good. Yeah, so that's my reading wrap up for January. Have you read any of these books? Will you read any of these books? Have I convinced you? Have I sold you? No? Okay. But that's all for today, and I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. I'm gonna do the Rachel Maxey thing where she just goes like, bye.